Thank you, Leah. So next, like Leah mentioned, we will be discussing scholarships, specifically scholarships offered to students by CUNY SPS. So the CUNY SPS Foundation offers various scholarship opportunities per academic year. The eligibility of each scholarship is different, but the details can be found on our webpage. Our annual scholarship opens in late March or early April for fall awards. Once the application opens, we send an announcement out to students via their CUNY SPS email address. And we also send out routine reminders throughout the application period through vessels such as email, text, and now social media up until the application deadline. If you're interested in learning more about scholarships, we truly encourage you to visit the CUNY SPS Office of Scholarships webpage, and we'll be sure to drop the webpage link in the chat. The Office of Scholarship also manages CUNY SPS's short-term assistance programs. The programs include the SPS Emergency Grant, the Food Access Initiative, and the CUNY SPS Textbook Grant. For the SPS Emergency Grant, this provides emergency financial assistance to eligible students who are experiencing financial hardship that can impact their educational success. In order to be considered, students must be enrolled in the current semester, submit an application, and include supporting documentation to outline their hardship. Some examples include assistance with rent if you had a loss of income, or assistance with an unexpected medical expense due to an emergency injury or unexpected injury. The emergency grant is offered for each semester throughout the academic year, so long as there's funding available. For the Food Access Initiative program, this provides supports to eligible students experiencing food insecurity. Students are eligible to request microgrants every 30 days as long as they're enrolled in the current semester and provide proof of purchase of groceries from the previous grant. Any initial grants are dispersed as an e-grocery card to Fresh Direct, and subsequent requests are dispersed through CUNY First through either direct deposit or mail-in to what the student has on file. The maximum award for each request is $50. And similar to the emergency grant, the Food Access Initiative program is offered for each semester throughout the academic year, so long as there is funding available. And lastly, the CUNY SPS Textbook Grant supports students with textbook costs. If awarded, students will receive a book voucher up to $200 for use at the school's bookstore, Academos. Undergraduate students cannot apply if you are receiving the Pell Book Advance, and to be eligible, students must be enrolled in a degree or certificate program and not be enrolled in a course that has a zero cost textbook. The textbook grant is only offered in the fall or spring semesters.
Hi, Teresa. Before we continue, Dr. Marquez-Lewis posted a great question. How competitive are the short-term assistant programs? And does CUNY SPS often have funds left over, or are the funds scarce?
So that's a great question. For the short-term assistance programs, that is something that we are working hard to continue funding on. We've never had an academic year where we don't have funding available. We are very communicative to our donors and our development office when we feel like we're running low on funds, because we want to make sure that we can get funding for the students. Sometimes what may happen is that we have to adjust the maximum award. Let's say for the emergency grant, sometimes it might change from 12, right now it's at 1,250. We might have to change that to 1,000 just to ensure that we still have funding available for students, because we know that emergencies do occur. For the competitiveness side of it, especially with the pandemic and the ongoing needs of our students, we generally approve of the majority of the applications. However, please keep in mind there's no guarantee. but we work with the students to ensure that they submit all of the documentation that's required. And even if a student is denied, that does not mean that you cannot reapply. That just means that maybe we need to touch base and see specifically what other documentation we can ask you to submit, and then we can always bring it to our review committee again. So please do not hesitate to apply for the short-term assistance grant, any grants, because you think you may not get it. Our office is very, supportive, and we're here to help you. Please reach out to the Office of Scholarships if you feel you have an emergency, and we'll definitely work through with you through a phone call or an email to ensure that we can get your application to as ready as possible for the review committee. Next, we will briefly touch on external scholarships. It is important for us to note, though, that CUNY SPS cannot promote or endorse external scholarships. That should not discourage you as students from researching scholarships on your own. Just a few quick tips to consider when you're searching for opportunities. Please be sure to research and then research some more before applying for scholarships. Researching will definitely help to protect you from potential scholarship scams. Remember that in general, you should not need to pay for any scholarship opportunities. If you do come across that situation, again, go back to tip number 1, please be sure to do your research. And lastly, please be sure to thoroughly read through the requirements of the scholarship before applying. You want to make sure you completely understand the scholarship requirements and any post-award requirements as well. There are also many reputable websites available to you to research external scholarship opportunities. We'll be sure to include the website links in the chat, but some of them include FastWeb, College Board, and even the CUNY.edu webpage. As I previously mentioned, our CUNY SPS annual scholarship opens yearly in late March or early April. With the application opening soon, we wanted to highlight some tips for the upcoming application cycle. Remember to make note of the scholarship deadlines, which can be found on our scholarships webpage once the application opens. So when you visit the Office of Scholarships, there is a link that says important deadlines, and it'll take you directly to when our deadlines are for the applications. Be sure to answer each question. There are various eligibility questions throughout the application. Additionally, within the personal statement and the financial needs statement, that's within the application, and it has different components to the questions prompted. Something else that we would like to highlight is that you do not need to complete the application in one sitting. You could definitely save your application and take breaks when needed, so long as the application is submitted by the deadline. We also strongly recommend that you compose your essays outside of the application in Word or Google Docs. Very similar to an academic essay, this will help to complete a spelling check and a grammar check. Additionally, if the application requires a recommendation, we recommend maybe a supervisor, a CUNY SPS faculty or staff member, a mentor that you may have had to provide the recommendation. Though recommendations from family and friends are a nice thought and they're great to read, unfortunately, they're not the best for these kinds of applications. Lastly, be sure to give your recommender enough time to complete the recommendation. There are various questions that the recommender needs to answer, so the night before is requesting a recommender the night before the application deadline is not the best practice. We hope you found these tips helpful, and I think I saw that there was a hand raised and maybe a couple of more questions before we go to the next section of the presentation.
Yeah, Teresa, I was just going to ask, we saw a question in the Q&A about the textbook grant and whether it might cover platform vouchers. So if a professor is using, instead of a textbook, an online platform that requires, payment to access for homework or quizzes, something like that.
Okay, if I'm understanding correctly, so I'll answer this 2 ways. As long as the within the CUNY SPS online bookstore, as long as we see that it's a required material, the voucher can cover it up to $200. Now, in the instance where maybe the professor requires, let's say, for example, a lab that cannot be purchased through the online bookstore, we are able to cover that as long as the award does not exceed $200. The way that's done is that we would need you to submit your syllabus or syllabi, depending on how many labs you have, to us via email, as well as the link within the syllabus or as a separate email, or within the email, the link to that lab website, because we need to verify the price. Once we have that information, and if you're approved by the review committee, we can submit that to our business office, and that could be sent to you via electronic transfer or as a check as well. I hope that answered the question. I think those were all of the scholarships questions. I'm just checking the Q&A before I hand it over to Leah. Is the Career Ladder Scholarship open for 2022? So as of right now, we do not have funding confirmation on whether or not we will have the Career Ladder Scholarship. If that is available, again, we highly recommend for you to check your CUNY SPS webpage, your email address. But for now, what we have confirmed is our annual scholarships will be opening. Again, that has different requirements and different eligibility. So please be sure to check the SPS webpage to see what you will qualify for. I forgot to note that when you do submit what we call our annual scholarship webpage or our annual scholarship application, it's the one application for all of the scholarship opportunities. With our next gen system, it'll automatically, based on your answers, match you to the opportunities that you qualify for. So please don't think when you see the website that you have to apply for every single opportunity. For our annual scholarships, there's one application. However, if you do see another application, please note that there is a separate application that you do need to submit for if you qualify for it, as well as while you're within the application, if there's any question that you answer and it does not deem you qualified, you will get a note from the system that says, thank you so much for attempting to, or for being interested in scholarships. Unfortunately, you do not meet the qualifications, but please continue to apply for other scholarship opportunities as they become available. Sorry. I can answer the scholarships and tax information at the end. So I will now hand it over to Leah for the next part of the presentation.
Sure, no problem. Thank you. And just to quickly answer Michelle, Teresa was referring to the Career Ladders Scholarship. And then I will mention, as Teresa did say, the application for our annual scholarships should be opening within the next couple of weeks. So definitely be sure to check your email. And this is a great group to share that for fall 2022, we will actually have some scholarships geared specifically towards first generation students. And seeing that you are here, keep on the lookout for that. Because it would be a great opportunity for you to apply for that scholarship. So that will be part of the annual scholarship application. When we open up the application for annual scholarships, you'll also have the opportunity to apply for that scholarship, and more information will be sent out over email.